Hey, my ducks, let me just move these tarot decks for a second. How are we doing? Today, I'm bringing you something a little bit different. I'm conscious that I'm going to be doing a lot of walkthrough videos, which always happens obviously after I've done a spotlight with Cheryl. There's the decks then to go through. And I kind of want to do them like every other day, so I'm not just constantly doing walkthrough videos. And we've had quite a lot on the channel in terms of travel vlogs, a few lives, impromptu lives, the best, my top 3 or 3 video. Thank you to the couple of people that's already responded to that. I really appreciate it. But today I wanted to, as I was having a bit of a potter, as I do, and a tidy round, I came across something which I got quite emotional about actually, because as I was tidying around, I came across an item in my mum's things. So I've got a little box. So when my mum passed away 3.5 years ago, myself, my stepdad and my sisters went through a few of her things after the funeral, and I don't know why, but I picked up this little box. It's a little heart-shaped box, and my stepdad seems to think it was from her wedding day, because there's this little artificial bunch of roses in there. I'm hoping the camera's picking things up. Maybe I'll bring it down. I just realised there was no lights on either, so I've just put the lights on. I think it's because it's been so dark the last couple of days with rain, and now we've got a bit of sunshine. I didn't think we needed it. But yeah, this little bouquet of, and I thought they were plastic, but actually the ceramic, and I believe it was on her wedding cake. But what really took me by surprise were these 2 stones. And I got quite emotional because I remember I picked this box up, you know, along with quite a few other things, and it's in a much bigger box of keepsakes. But these are just 2 seamlessly random stones. But then I started thinking about, why were these 2 stones important to my mum? Because that's, you know, I've often spoke about, and that's the crystal she brought me, and that's the premise really of today's video. A few items that I couldn't be without. And I thought at some point in her life, she came across these stones. They feel a little bit polished, but I can't imagine her buying them. She may have been gifted to them. She may have found them. But what I really, really like about this is the fact that she took something from the earth that was precious to her, enough for her to keep it, or keep them, in this little box with a reminder of her wedding day. And no, before anybody asks as well, they weren't gifted to her by her husband, my stepdad. He doesn't know why they're there either. But it's a mystery, but it's lovely that, you know, she felt connected to the earth, and she took something from the earth that was precious to her, and she kept them for the rest of her life. And that's kind of got me thinking about how this is really precious to me now, and will be precious for the rest of my life. But then what happens to them? Because, you know, I don't have any children to pass things on to. When this place is cleared away, after I've slipped off the mortal coil, who knows where they'll go? But they may even end up back in the earth, and that's fine too. But obviously that got me thinking about the time when, and people that have been members of the channel for a while will know this story, but you know, I'm nearly at 2,200 subscribers now, and it was only a few weeks ago we crossed 20,000. Did I say 2,200? 20,200. So there's new subscribers all the time, so you might appreciate hearing this story. But those who don't know, my background was Mormon. My parents were Mormon. And in 2001, my life was pretty much in a really awful state with my marriage, my religion, the job I was doing at the time, everything. And I ended up having a mental breakdown. And long story short, after 3 years of recovery, I made the decision to rebuild my life completely. And that meant a whole complete life change. And one of those steps was leaving Mormonism, which is a big thing if you're in the Mormon church, because that's spiritual death. That's outer darkness for eternity. Don't worry, that conditioning is well gone. It's been reversed. But it was tough on my parents because obviously they wanted an eternity with me. And at the time, they believed that was now not going to be the case. So there was a whole process. My mum bought me a crystal, which I keep in this box. A beautiful gesture. We were on holiday, and my mum was one of these people who, even if she just went to Skegness, which is where she loved to go actually, would bring gifts back for the family, for her children and her grandchildren. She would always bring gifts, and most of the times, instead of it being a surprise, she would say, "What do you want on holiday?" when I go on holiday. But I was on holiday with them, and we went into a shop called Magpie's Nest. It's not there now, sadly, on the Lincolnshire coast. And my mum offered to buy me this crystal, which is such a treasured item, an item that I can't be without. It is gorgeous. And I remember looking at this crystal in the shop and thinking, that is so beautiful, really, really beautiful. And my mum, who wasn't into that sort of thing, crystals and New Age stuff in the Mormon church, that's a huge no-no, said, "Would you like it? Let me buy it for you." And I said, "Mum, you can't do that." And she insisted. And she bought me many other crystals the years after, but this was a huge deal for me. And this is such a treasured item. And I keep it safe because it's with my decks as well, because it's cherished. I do get it out from time to time. And you know what? Quartz crystal is, for me, it's the master healer. These crystals, I've got this new one as well that I showed last week that I picked up in Whitby. But these crystals are such a popular tool for healing. And the reason I love quartz above all other crystals, I love malachite, that's a favourite of mine as well, blue lace, agate, blue calcite, any calcite, orange calcite, you name it, I love them. But clear quartz crystals, for me, as I said, I see it as the master healer. And it is very popular because it's great for meditation, it's great for manifestation. It's believed to aid clarity of thought, enhance spiritual awareness. It's great for opening your third eye. And for me, it helps to connect to higher consciousness, whatever that is, a collective consciousness, where I receive divine. And by that, I don't mean divine in the sense of a Christian God anymore, but divine guidance. It's associated with cleansing and balancing the chakras as well, which, it's the highest chakra, isn't it? But it works brilliantly with the crown chakra. And I just think it's a beautiful all-rounder. And, if I could only have one crystal, then this would be the one that I want. And it's an important part of my spiritual practice. So that's that. I started to think about, well, what else is really important to me? Because I kind of want to gather them together as much as I can to have around me, because even though you could say, well, you know, they're in my flat, they are around me, it's that I've got a lot of stuff in here, and sometimes it takes a while to find things. And I started thinking about a few items that are important to me that might have no significance to anybody else. They don't necessarily have any value in terms of monetary value, but in terms of a personal connection, a value of a thought, of memories, of love, then they have a huge value. And it goes completely against my my former beliefs as a Buddhist, because Buddhism teaches non-attachment. You shouldn't have any attachment to things, but that was one of the things I struggled with the most, because we're human, and I know we should transcend that state, but when you love people and people gift you things, or, you know, they become a part of your spiritual practice or whatever, then you do attach thoughts and emotions and memories and things like that to it. So yeah, it's one of the things that that I struggled with as a Buddhist. Anyway, so the number one thing is the crystal that my mum gave me for the reasons that I mentioned. Obviously, tarot is another important item I don't want to be without. And this isn't a favourite tarot deck moment. This is just tarot in general. It's such an important spiritual tool for me. It's my number one spiritual tool, is tarot. It's a part of my life, daily life. I rarely know when I haven't used a tarot deck. If a day goes by, I don't know if I'm away or it's been a really hectic day. As much as, you know, I'd love to sit here and say, I never ever, a day never goes by without using the tarot. That wouldn't be entirely true. There are occasions when I don't, but I know when I haven't. And as you know, I use the tarot for my spiritual development, not necessarily for predictions, although sometimes that happens naturally as part of tarot readings. But, you know, for me, it's about that internal dialogue. What's going on? What am I experiencing? And my morning is very much about my intentions for the day, and my evening spreads are about my reflections over the day. But also on a deeper level, you know, because these are 78 cards, 78 aspects of life, if you like, and therefore they can give you real insight into what's happening, into what's going on. And also, once you've looked in the mirror of tarot and you see what's being reflected back, for me, as part of my spiritual practice, it can help me be a better person as I journey through life. So tarot, of course, my number one spiritual tool is the tarot, and that is an item that I never want to be without. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the third one, which is a change of scenery, because my third one is having an altar space. So as you can see, this is my main altar. It's dedicated to Gaia, who sits in the center there. But all of the items on my space all have significance. I'm not going to go through each one. I have done an altar tour. At the front you'll see my wands, which I love. This one was handmade for me, actually, by the lovely Wiccan, Neris. It has my name in Ogham. But yeah, each item is just so important as part of my practice. Let me focus here just to give you something to focus on. So it's important to me because it serves as a sacred space where you can connect with your spiritual beliefs. You can honor deities, as you can see here. It helps me to celebrate the cycle of nature. So I'll show you on the second altar. I've got a bigger, more elaborate version of this, but you can see the wheel of the year. We are between Beltane and Letha at the moment. So when we get into June, that wheel will turn more. But it's a physical representation of my belief and a focal point really for ritual, for meditation, for offerings. I do have some offerings on the altar as well. And for me, it's things from the earth. So whether it's herbs or flower petals or just anything that I find or I'll purchase from places like Glastonbury. I have a representation of the moon. So it's my moon goddess. The crystal sphere that represents the moon there is selenite. I have a representation of the sun. So the sun goddess there, and the sphere is orange calcite. And then of course Gaia sits in the middle. And I have two representations of Gaia and fluorite to represent the earth. So we have the earth, the moon and the sun as part of that space as well. For me, altars can be very simple. They don't have to be elaborate. It's about having items on the altar that are important to you and your practice. But it's more about being grounded in your practice, and it's there to create a sense of presence, of reverence, and for me, continuing to build a relationship with the divine and the natural world. And for me, they're one of the same. Gaia is Mother Earth, and we call her Mother Earth because we're all from Gaia, and we should treat her with more respect than we do. My second altar that I have is representing, again, everything's about balance with me, as you've probably noticed, but it's about representing the god and the goddess, that duality within all of us. These are Philippa Bauer pieces and they're absolutely beautiful. And then I have this beautiful tree stump, just gorgeous, that I hang things from, that I've picked up along my travels. I think it's really nice to ground yourself, particularly, hello city, that's my view. I live in a city, if you haven't seen it before. I've got a fantastic view, I get amazing sunsets every night, and then that's what I see, but then I bring it down to connection, to being grounded. Yeah, and I've got a little ancestral altar. I'll talk about ancestral work a little bit later on. In here is my other copy of the Blushing Four that sits tarot deck front and centre. And then this is the other Wheel of the Year, which I've had for a few years now. The crystal moves round. It's always set 12 o'clock Samhain, and then the crystal makes its way round the Wheel of the Year. And as I mentioned before, this time 21 years ago, I was a Buddhist. And whilst I don't practice Buddhism anymore, I do have a Buddhist altar, which I'll insert a video of. And that's in the bedroom, and that's more for serenity, for calmness. But even though I don't practice Buddhism anymore, I think going through life and experiencing different religions or beliefs or philosophies, you take what resonates and you leave the rest anyway, and it really does become part of your practice. there are elements of Buddhism that's really important to me. So whilst I don't necessarily sit in front of like a Honzon now and chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, I believe very much in the concept of cause and effect. For every action, there's a reaction. I believe in the interconnectedness of the mind and body, the self in the environment, and the interconnectedness of all sentient beings. And as well as the earth and the universe, it goes on and on. And, you know, I don't see that as at odds with my pagan belief either. While we're on the subject of Buddhism, one of my items that I couldn't be without as well is this 1940s Buddha. It's not the most attractive Buddhist statue, but this has such a place in my heart. This was gifted to me from a friend who passed away, and she gifted it to me not long before she passed away, actually. And she used to run, or own, I should say, a antique shop in Wales. And this is an item that she kept for herself. She used to collect Buddha figures. And yeah, this is from the 1940s, so it's 80 years old. And she gifted it to me. She entrusted me with being the keeper of this Buddha. And he sits next to my bed. He's even got a little offering area, which I liked. And I just put a little sunflower there because that reminds me of Sue. She was such a vivacious, lively, fun-loving, a real character. And the sunflower kind of reminds me of her and our friendship. And she passed away in 2021, the year before my mum. And it was a terrible loss because she was just such a lovely friend. So again, you know, attachment, but I think we do. And it's lovely that I've got something that I look at and I remember my friend. So yeah, that's another really important item to me. Something else that connects me and is an important item, and again, it's a spiritual tool, much like the tarot, are my Ogham staves. I couldn't be without these. I got them over 2 different times. They were quite expensive because you order them and then they go and forage and make you your individual set of Ogham staves. And you can buy them ready done, and they tend to be little ones. But these are beautiful. And then I bought the original set, and then you could add on some others at a later date, which I did. And you know, I've got runes. I've got the Elder Futhark runes. I've got Witcher's runes. I've got them in crystal, I've got them in antler, I've got them in bone, I've got them in wood. I've got a beautiful set of wood from Glastonbury that was foraged from around the foot of the Tor, the trees at the foot of the Tor. But Ogham staves, you know, are really important to me. I love the sound. Sound is important. I love the feel, the tactile experience. But above all else, I love the fact that as somebody who is born and raised and lived my life in the UK, in England, Ogham is really important, particularly if you've got an interest in Celtic heritage or Druidry or pagan spirituality. Because these stones connect to ancient traditions and wisdom of this land that I walk, this land that is my home. If you don't know about Ogham or its origin, it's an early medieval alphabet. used primarily to write in early Celtic language. Each symbol is traditionally associated with a tree, so you'll see each stave is different because they're taken from branches from different trees, and this is why they're quite expensive as well, because like I said, they go and this is one of the newer ones, they go and make the staves once you buy them. For modern times, for want of a better way of saying it, Ogham staves serve as a tool for divination. That wasn't its intention, I don't believe. You know, signs were written in Ogham because it was an early language, but they're used now more for divination, for meditation, but also connecting with nature and ancestral roots. And I'm going to finish this video later about talking about the importance of ancestral connections for me. They carry cultural and I can't get my words out. They carry cultural and spiritual significance for me, and just offers a meaningful way to explore the mystical and historical landscape of these British Isles. And you can get books. I tended to do a lot of research online and printed out information that I found useful and popped it in my well, I was going to call it a grimoire, book of shadows, whatever. It's kind of its own thing. It's a leather bound file that I love this bag as well. I bought this from Avebury the first time I ever went. It's perfect for it. But yeah, it's like a leather bound file that has it's got my initials in the bottom. It's beautiful. It was about £100 to buy this, but in here I can't fit it all in, but it's got everything, you know, including the Ogham stuff, geomancy, all that kind of stuff, witches' runes. Yeah, so that's where I keep all my information. Maybe that should have been an item I couldn't be without as well. My folder. I want to talk about a book next that's really important to me. I'm probably going to have to rearrange everything on the table to get to it because I've got things piled up everywhere. There we go. Okay, let's bring the camera up a little bit. I don't want to get the candles on it. So this book is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. It's the most important book in my collection. It was a pivotal time in my life. I spoke earlier about my breakdown and leaving the church and you know, having that hole in the soul and then looking at other paths. This is a Folio Society version. I've got so many versions of this, and this is probably the book I've gifted the most in my life to people. And it was strange, you know, as growing up, I was always a Madonna fan, and I saw a quote from her about The Alchemist and how it had transformed her life. And I thought, well, I'll give that book a go. And I absolutely fell in love with it. And that's why I decided to, Jesu, who was the artist in this? Jesu, it's written by Paulo Coelho. Jesus Cisneros. It's a gorgeous book full of spiritual treasures. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It's about a young shepherd boy called Santiago, who has a dream that buried treasure is buried somewhere in Egypt, and he lives in southern Spain. So he goes on a journey, a pilgrimage, to go and find the buried treasure. And he goes through Africa and travels across to Egypt. But it's about the people he meets on the way, the people who teach him life lessons, And it really is a beautiful, beautiful book with a very powerful ending. I won't tell you the ending because if you haven't read it, it's a spoiler. But this book really transformed my life, really. It taught me the importance of letting go of everything that I believed previously and finding my own path. I often hear the phrase personal legend, you know, to pursue your personal legend, but more so about a purpose in life with both courage and faith in yourself and faith in the people around you and faith in your environment. And following your dreams, you know, this was a literal dream he had, but he went in search, he tried to follow his dreams. And as I said, the book teaches powerful lessons about listening to your heart, recognizing signs and omens that our world and our universe gives to us, and then trusting the journey you're on, even if the path seems uncertain. It's a fable, it's written as a fable, but it's a really powerful book. And if I could only have one book, this would be the one. And I've read it many times, and I know I'll read it many times again. It's beautifully written. It did set me on a bit of a journey with the author, Paulo Coelho. I read Veronica Decides to Die, 11 Minutes, The Witch of Portobello, all of his works. And I did enjoy them. I really did enjoy them. I think my second favourite was Veronica Decides to Die. But this book is the book for me. I think it's wonderful. While we're talking about books and things like that, I also want to mention a film, because we have books and films and things like that that really shape us and make us think about things a little differently. And this may seem like a very bizarre choice, but this film, which is Tina Turner's life story up until the point of going solo, so it takes you up to about 1984. It was released in the 90s. It's called What's Love Got to Do With It? And it's based on the book I, Tina. Angela Bassett, incredible performance as Tina Turner. It's got Lawrence Fishburne as Ike. And this is the film that set me on the journey of Buddhism. Now, when I discovered this film, I was Mormon. But there was something about it that just stuck with me. And then when I left the church, I bought it on VHS, remember them, and I watched it again. And I loved the story of courage and conviction. She, as you might know about Tina Turner's life story, she was in a very, very abusive, violent, including sexual violence, relationship with Ike Turner, and he controlled her whole life. You know, she was famous because of him back then, and she'd got children with him, and she was used as a punch bag. And she discovered Nichiren Buddhism, and she chanted Namyo Renge Kyo, and that gave her the courage and conviction to leave, to walk out, to go and start her life again. So it really is a story of personal growth and transformation. And the rest, as they say, is history. You know, for 40 years almost after that point, that she lived for another nearly almost 40 years, she became one of the biggest stars in the universe. And it's just a fantastic film. It really is an amazing film. It's probably one of my favourite films ever. But in terms of biopics, it's certainly my favourite film. And, you know, I then the first kind of spiritual path that I took, leaving Mormonism, was Nichiren Buddhism, and it helped me. It helped me for that point in my life and led me to where I am today. Number 7, there's a place, Glastonbury, that I love to go, and I go every year. I do see it as my pilgrimage. I do see the White Springs as my temple, and it is a place that I go to be spiritually charged, and that gets me through the year. And then I have little top-ups by going to the sea and places like that. But I can't bring Glastonbury to the table here, but what I can bring is, because each year I go, I like to bring a bit of Glastonbury back, and I don't just mean things from the shops. There are items that I have around me that connect me to that place. This was a lovely gift from Sandra, this beautiful, beautiful box with the tour on the top. But in there, I've put some stones that I collected from Glastonbury. All 4 of these are from around the tour, with the exception of one. I think one was from the Chaliswell Gardens, it might have been this one. But the rest were from around the tour, and they're all interesting and unusual, little different markings and different types of stone. So I brought some of the Glastonbury land back with me. I also have this little beauty, which again is in, I forgot the wood now, silver birch, is it, I think, with the Vesica Pisces, the logo that's on the chalice well. And every year I bring back some, not chalice well water, though that I have got chalice well water, but I bring back white spring water from my temple. And I take this and I fill it, and then I decant some of it into this little bottle which sits on my sacred space. And each year it's topped up. And so I'm bringing the land, I'm bringing the water and the energy of Glastonbury into my home. And they're important items for me to get me through the year, because I can't imagine now not going to Glastonbury. Just as much as I suppose somebody with a belief, like a Christian belief, would go to church, each week. I find that when I go to Glastonbury, I'm connecting even more with my my pagan roots. Whoops, sorry, just not the camera. I'm absorbing the energy of Glastonbury. And yeah, like I said, the best analogy is like having a bit of a flat battery, and then you go there and you're charged again. But being able to bring back things like water from the wells and rocks from the earth and use them all year round as part of your practice is really important. Really important for me. Number 9, things that I can't be without. As I mentioned earlier, sound is really important. And you probably hear at the start of every video I've ever done for the last 8 years, you'll hear a bell. And bells are really, really important. Sound is really important to me. Drumming is another one. I said to Sandra, if I go to Glastonbury, I'd love to be able to get a drum. It's not ideal though, living in an apartment complex to be drumming. But nobody's ever complained about my bells. Now, this one is one that I got when I was a Buddhist. Let me see if I can show it properly. It sits kind of like that on this cushion. It's got a base, and then it has the gonger in a little case here, and it has a beautiful resonance. Yes, you can use them as singing bowls as well. So I have that one, and that's kind of like my main one. And then I also have, I need to move to grab it because I couldn't fit it all around me. I have this one as well, which is, oh, it's still got the price on it. It was £30. And I bought this when I was with Darpan. If anybody remembers Darpan, used to have a channel a few years ago. And Brian Cormac Carr, we met up in Birmingham. It's got loads of bits kind of missing off the paint, but that's fine, it's old. But again, this one, the resonance is beautiful, and it's great for healing, sound healing, but it's great to cleanse the space. So whenever I do readings, apart from when people are here, because, you know, like I was doing my 3-card readings a couple of mornings when Sandra was here, and she was asleep just over there on the settee, and I didn't want to be there kind of should have jumped up awake. But I use it for cleansing the space, and every time I do a video, I like to have my candles lit, I like to light incense, and I like to sound my bell. The resonance of it is lovely. I also have this one. This is a little travel one. It's beautiful. It comes in this little box, and you take it all out of the box. This has got a little bit, needs to perhaps go in the wash. It's got a little bit dusty over time. And again, different sound, different resonance, but it's beautiful. And then my final one was one that was sent to me. I've showed this many times. It was sent to me from Japan, and I love this. It's really heavy. It's a tiny little black bowl. It came in a little origami fold-up case, which also then acts as the cushion for it. And it has a hematite crystal sphere, and you just beautiful. And that one sits in front of a little, when I was talking about altars earlier, I've also got a little Gaian altar here for my cards, where I do my daily draw and my my weekly daily draw and weekly pull. And I'll insert a photograph of that here. Hopefully I'll remember, and you'll see the bell in front of the Gaia and the main crystal, quartz crystal in the middle. And then lastly is my ancestor items that I do every so often, ancestral work. I do use cards for that. I particularly like to use, particularly at Samhain, postcards from Spirit, which is by Colette Baron Reid. Some beautiful messages in there, and I've talked about that deck before. But I have, I've already mentioned my mum's items. I have a ring that was my dad's. It has a B because I'm named after him. It's on onyx. It's gold and onyx, black onyx. It doesn't fit. My dad was very thin, but I keep it and I use it. And then you'll recall, as somebody mentioned the other day, actually, it seems strange seeing my hands now without fingers. But I've got my granddad's wedding ring that I always used to wear until I trapped my finger. I put that on the wedding finger rather than that one. Until I trapped my finger in the shoot, and it swelled and I couldn't get it off, and I didn't put them back on. Maybe I should. This wedding ring my grandparents married in 1940, it was during the war, 1942 I think it was. So it's over 80 years old. And then he also had this signet ring, which I've also worn many times, but yeah, I don't know, we'll see. And then my grandma never wore jewelry, other than her wedding ring and this. She wore this every day of her life. When I say she never wore jewelry, she didn't have brooches and lots of necklaces and lots of rings and earrings and all that sort of thing. I don't even think she had her ears pierced, but she always wore this little gold locket. And I try not to open it too often because it's falling apart, but in it she had a picture of herself. I don't know if that will show because it's very faint. Herself and her husband, my granddad, and she carried it with her. Now, my granddad died when I was 16. He died in Christmas 1986, and my grandma was obviously devastated. From after the Second World War, they'd never spent a day apart. They did everything together. And when there was out in the community, in town, shopping, there was always hand in hand. And when he passed away, she couldn't bear it because people would come up to her in the street and say, "Oh, where's your husband? It seems so strange seeing you without him. You was always together." And about a year after, maybe two years after, she had a severe stroke and was housebound for the rest of her life. She lived another 7 years before passing away. But as part of my ancestral work as well, I had this photograph of them, and this just encapsulates the essence of who they were. They were very fun, very loving. These are my maternal, my mum's mum and dad, grandparents. So yeah, I like to have items around me as well, but these treasures here, I guess family heirlooms, you could say, but very significant to me, and I keep them safe as well. I started talking about my mum, and I'm going to finish talking about her as well, because one of the things I found was this little book that she gave me years ago, Sons it was called, quotations selected by Helen Exley, and she wrote to me, to Brian, lots of love from Mum. She always called me Brian. And it's lovely. And I don't know, I can't remember where we were when she bought me this, but she bought me this, and yeah, it's very, very lovely words, and I keep them with her items as well. So ancestral items are items that I obviously never want to be without for obvious reasons. They're very important, and they also act as great tools if you're creating an ancestral altar or you're doing some specific ancestral work. So that is my items that I can't be without, and I just thought I'd share them. I hadn't planned to do this video when I woke up this morning. As I said, I'm spending a bit of time this week decluttering things, and it's funny when you come across something and then you sit down, and I got quite emotional, and particularly about those two stones, because I remember at the time thinking, why has my mum got two stones in a little box? Why were they so important to her? And whilst I'll never know in this life, I sat there this morning and I thought, do you know what? I haven't thought about these stones for a couple of years. Why did she have these stones? Isn't it funny how I collect stones? Stones are all around me. And this was something else that connected me to her, that these two stones, for whatever reason, were important enough for her to keep. Anyway, a few items I can't be without. Thank you for watching, everyone. Have a blessed rest of your week, and until next time, go in peace. Namaste and bless. blessed be.